Welcome to Spirit Baby Radio. I am your host, Kelly Meehan, a citizen of the universe and a passage keeper and mentor for our new Earth children. I believe we are entering into a new psychic structure of our reality, and it is meant to embody deeper trust and ways into solid self-love and fearless integrity. Our new world energy of spirit babies needs us to consciously create within conception, trust pregnancy, and have freedom to birth and parent from innate wisdom. This is Spirit Baby Radio. Welcome to episode 200, November 2024, Raising a Family within the Age of Aquarius, Parenting with Your Astrology. How can astrology create guidance in your life as a parent? How do you apply this wisdom into everyday life? What is a birth chart? Are you open and ready to learn about your own astrology? Welcome, my special guest, Tory.
Yay, thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Yay, and those that get to see the video, they get to see us kind of moving around doing
I
our
know.
thing.
With my moons in the
Her
background.
moons, yes, we're like, ooh, what's this
Yes.
background? Awesome. I always like to kind of begin before I'm going to introduce and read more about you is how we meet. I always feel like there's like, what is this connection? And years ago through Spirit Baby mentorship. That
Yes.
was before I actually had the academy. It was like you were all the test subjects.
Yeah, it was
And
a while ago, a couple of years
s-
ago.
so long ago. It was so much fun. And I always felt like your energy was always very authentic and beautiful and present. And I love that we reconnected to share your meaningful, energetic work to the world, and especially with families. Ah.
Yes, I know. It's just, I don't know if you remember, but you did reading for me before I even joined your mentorship, before my kids were born.
I don't. Tell me about it.
Yes. So you did a spirit baby reading for me. That's how I found you. I think I was like Googling spirit babies or something. And you did a reading for me. And you said you said three babies were around me and you saw a girl and two boys. And I currently have a girl and one boy.
Oh, yes. This is looking good for
Yeah.
me. Thanks for
Yes.
sharing that.
Yes. So many things were so on point. I still look back at my notes sometimes just for nostalgia.
Oh, I love that. That's so awesome. Thanks for
Yes.
sharing that. Let
Yeah,
me
of
read more
course.
about you, my special guest, I call you. Let's see. Tory Sjovall is a intuitive energy and tarot card reader, an astrologer for mothers and families, and a self-proclaimed witchy mom of two kids. She was led down the path of self-discovery and spirituality in her 20s while working a corporate retail job in New York City and searching for meaning outside the daily grind. While finding more peace and self-acceptance were amazing side effects of learning how to read birth charts, getting Reiki attuned and learning tarot, the real work started when she became a mom. She had a daughter in spring of 2020, went through a dark night of the soul while welcoming her baby into the world during mass chaos. She was so grateful she had developed all these spiritual skills and tools to help her connect more intentionally with herself, her husband, and her kids through the ups and downs of parenting. Now, her biggest passion is helping you do the same, guiding moms through rediscovering who they are, and with her intuitive work and astrology readings, and guiding families closer together with deeper understanding of each other through their birth charts. As a Taurus, Tori's gift is taking woo woo and bringing it back down to earth so that you can easily apply new practices to everyday life. And I have to say, my fellow, is it Taurine? How would you say that?
Torian, yeah, I guess.
Torian, because I obviously
Torin.
I'm not that far from you. In
hmm
years, yes, you look like you're like 20 years old. I don't
No,
know.
I'm 35.
You're super young. Yeah, I'm gonna be 50.
I love it.
So, but I am a Taurus too. And people always say, well, that's probably why you can ground the work in. Because it's
hmm
like you say that,
Yes.
and maybe that's where you, when you say like woohoo or the spirit, it's like you're able to.
Yes. I've always felt it's funny because I looked at your chart and we'll get to that, but I felt similar energy to me where so much of your chart leads to like this mysticism and like these out there concepts. But because you're a Taurus and you do have a lot of this Taurus energy in your chart, you do bring it back down too, and you communicate it and you teach it. And that's how I feel about myself too. I think that's like my number one thing my clients have always said about me. They're like, oh, you're not like just in space all the time. You're like a normal person, but you still connect that way. And I'm like, yes, I feel like that's what I do best.
I love that because people have told me that throughout the years too. I don't think much of it, but I do know I'm a very earthy person. Like I love the soil, the dirt.
Yes.
Even when I birthed my children, I had two opportunities to birth in a pool. I just couldn't do it. And what I discovered is I
Mm,
was a land birther.
yes,
I
that
was
makes
like,
so much
I needed
sense.
my feet on the ground to push. And I thought that's fascinating because I know there's a connection to that because you see
Mhm.
all these dreamy water births and they look amazing. And there was
Yeah.
something about floating in the water. And I realized I lived by the ocean for most of all my life until like these past few months. I always lived either on the West Coast or the East Coast. And now I'm on no coast. And I noticed that like the ocean was always very intimidating to me. It was powerful, and I
Mm,
never was like, I have to go to the ocean. I was like, I want to go in the
yes.
mountains. So I think it's
Yes.
also very telling, right?
That makes complete sense. It's funny, I was looking at your chart before we hopped on the call, and I actually heard like intuitively that I was like, she's such a child of the earth. Like it was just like you are like
Oh,
birthed from the earth for sure. You have
oh,
that
I
earth
love that.
energy.
I
Yeah.
love that you just said that because I just walked my ladies through this meditation as our babies were coming through the earth from flowers into our bodies.
Yes, that's such a you
What?
meditation.
Right? I
Yes.
was like, but when I was doing that, I was like, I needed that meditation back when I was having I was like,
Yes.
I love that, like that connection. It makes so much sense. But thank
Totally.
you so much for being here. And I want to hear, tell us about you and this connection to astrology and yeah.
Yeah, so honestly, for as long as I can remember, I've loved astrology. Like, when we're looking at Cosmo, when we're like 10 years old in our bedrooms, I was always looking at my horoscopes. Like, it was always a connection for me. I always knew, like, okay, I'm a Taurus, and a lot of the Taurus stereotypes definitely resonate with me, but it didn't really go deeper for me until probably like my mid 20s. Like I said, I was living in Jersey City, so like right outside New York City, and I was commuting every day, and I loved my job. I was good at it, but I was like I just felt the inkling for something different. So I'm a Gemini Mercury, and we can get into more of what that means later, but I'm just a constant learner. And to me, I was like, all right, what do I want to learn? Like when I'm not working, what do I want to be doing? So I took astrology classes and I learned how to read birth charts. And it was like I was traveling for work a lot. And like every work trip, when we would have dinners, I was like, sit down, I'm pulling all of your charts and we would go through them. So it just became like kind of like a fun hobby for me. I did one or two readings at the time, but I was like, yeah, I don't think I'm ready to dive into this as like a side hustle or anything yet. It was just more for fun. And then it really became something I wanted to integrate into my work later on. So I always say that astrology was my gateway drug. That's like how I got into that's how I got into all of this spiritual stuff. I learned birth charts first, I learned astrology, and then it kind of led me down the road into yoga, and then I became Reiki attuned, and then I learned oracle cards and tarot cards, and I actually ended up starting a spiritual business but with Reiki and energy healing. And it didn't occur to me to really use astrology in my business until my daughter was born. Like I said, it was a dark night
Wow.
of the soul.
My gosh, you sound like me because I feel like my pregnancy was the dark night of my soul, and that's a whole
Yes.
other big conversation. It's not. Don't misinterpret that, people, like it's being negative.
Yes.
It's
It's
just,
not bad.
yeah,
It's just
yeah.
a lot.
Whew, it's yeah,
Yeah.
but I love how you're like it's the gateway. Like, yeah, I
Yes.
wonder now, like, what is the gateway? Because there are gateways to like, what was it
Hmm.
that gets you in? It's like once you open it, it's like, man, it just all just floods in, right? And I love
Totally.
that, I call you like a healer entrepreneur. It's like being able to, restructure and recreate. And I know with the birth of life. Hello, it's like you do get
Mhm.
inspired, and I know that's really what made me a spirit baby medium, to be honest, was my children.
Yes, makes
Because
sense.
before that I was doing other things in the healing arts.
Yeah.
And then it's fascinating, right? Because you would have never predicted that.
No. No, like when I was like reading birth charts, half a glass of wine deep, like on a work trip, it would never occur to me that like, oh, my daughter's gonna come and like just completely rock my world in an amazing way.
Yeah.
But it was the birth chart that helped me
Mm.
come back to myself and to how to parent her in the best way for her. And it was just so incredibly helpful.
So this is a really big deal. I feel like a lot of parents have struggles at times, or they just want to know who their baby or their child is, or it's like,
Mhm.
and there's something about, being able to get a little bit of a template. Can you walk us through what that would look like for like maybe like connecting with someone comes and says, hey, read my child. Like, how does that
Yeah.
look?
Yes. So, like you said in my bio, my biggest thing is taking out their concepts and making them
Mm,
understandable. Because, as a busy mom, I have a 4 and a 2-year-old. I understand that not all of us can sit and learn about astrology for 3 hours a day and like figure out all of the transits and all of the things. So, what I try to do is make it very digestible. So most people know, if you're at all curious about astrology, that you have a sun, moon, and a rising sign. So when you get a reading or you come to me, I'm going to teach you about what your sun is, what your moon is, what your rising sign is. And I also really love to include Mercury, because to me, the Mercury sign is like a secret key, especially to communicating with your kids, because Mercury represents communication, and it represents, like, I like to say it's like your mind and your brain and how you filter information. So if you know what sign your kid's Mercury is in versus yours, you can understand maybe how to work through challenges, or if you need patience with them, if they're a fast learner, if they need time, if they need time to process. So that's where we go. And I'm like, a sun, this is what the sun is. It's your ego, it's your identity. Your moon is your inner world, your emotions, your rising. I like to call it your highest self. There's a bunch of different ways to interpret rising sign, but I like to say it's like who you're rising to be. It's you and your highest energy. And then your Mercury, like I said, is your mind and your information. So we focus on those four things. And I'm just like, here it is. Here's their signs. And I like to go like really, really, really basic down to the elements. So like earth, sun, earth, air,
yeah.
fire, and water.
I love that. And I think I love that you're saying that because I'm one of those people that astrology feels like math in my mind.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I had an astrology reading probably, I'm not, maybe like 20 years ago. And it was this guy. And I'm literally like, he's like, here, give me all, I was like, I had no clue. Like
Yes,
it was just, there
exactly.
was this, and this thing, and this, and he's just like, he was trying really hard because he was
Yeah.
like, here's the instructions here, and I'm like looking at this like, what, do you want me to learn a whole other career? Like I
No,
couldn't,
literally.
and I think it made me not want to go near it because I was like, I
Yes.
don't understand it, this doesn't make
Yes.
sense. And
Yes.
then I kept trying to come back to it, and I'm like, but he was so passionate about it and it was so great that he did this, but your planets are in this thing, and he was showing me a picture, but I was like, but I could not break it down, like it didn't make sense
Exactly.
to me. And then I'm like, that's
Yeah.
why I'm like, well, you're like, hey, Kelly, do you mind? I was like, okay, let's go for it because
Yeah.
I need like the child reading.
Yes. But that's how 99% of people I
Okay.
talk to feel. It's like, I don't want to know what's transiting what and what's squaring and oppositions like that. It's a different language. So I tried to make it like, okay, when you leave this reading, you're going to look at your kid and you're going to have at least three things that you understand better about them in like an English language.
Uh,
You know what I mean?
Yes, and what I do know collectively, just throughout the years, still like sitting on the outside of the astrology because it was so intimidating to me. It's like
Mhm.
my PTSD.
Yeah.
And I've had another astrologer on. She's really amazing, and it's like, okay, let's like, but I think you're only the second one out of which, by the way, 200
Yeah.
episode. Woohoo! Where's the
So
horns and like
exciting. I
flyers?
know. Brr,
I know.
brr.
Which you would, there's a lot of astrology feels really important for people right now. I've noticed that
Mhm.
since the pandemic. I've
Yes.
noticed that astrology's really been on the forefront of everybody from like doctors to plumbers. There's no like
Yes.
and
Yes.
so it makes me more curious. And I love, of course, the new earth energy, the children, conception, and I'm like, ooh, is there a way, and I'm just kind of just through this kind of just sparked in my mind, is there a way to bring it into conception if people are struggling, or what would
You know,
that? Yeah.
that's interesting. Maybe your own birth chart. Yes. Like I wouldn't
Oh, I
look
see.
forward, because you need to know when they're
Yeah.
born, how they were born. Like, you know what I mean? You need the
Okay,
time.
okay.
But you can use your own chart like through conception and pregnancy just to like connect with yourself more. Like I always say, for kids, when I'm reading kids, and also especially for women, knowing your moon sign and how you connect emotionally is a huge, huge tool. And I think there's a lot of people out there in the world that say they're a Leo. but they have a Cancer moon or something. And they're like, I don't feel like
Yeah.
a Leo. It might be because they resonate a lot
Oh.
more with their moon sign because women, we're so connected to our inner world, our intuition. And that's what your moon sign represents. So even knowing that about yourself could be helpful in a journey like that, even to support yourself emotionally, know how to ask for help. You know what I mean?
Oh, I love that because somebody told me, I don't even know. You're going to tell me because I was like, I think the element air came up before. So I'm like, I don't know,
Mhm.
is that my thing? Like, you know. But
Yeah.
before we get into that, this could sound kind of weird, but I'm thinking, could you do a chart on a stillborn baby where they have a birth date and a death date and see,
Yes.
oh
You
wow.
could definitely look at their energy.
Okay.
I personally have not done that before, but you
Yeah.
could definitely pull their chart, just as a way of like looking at
Yeah.
them and honoring their energy and seeing what they were
Oh, I
bringing
love that.
through.
Because I'm thinking,
Yeah.
there's so many of women I've supported through the years where their baby hits 40 weeks and they die in their womb and then the baby's
Yeah.
born. So they do have something, and I'm
Hmm.
sure the hard space in that is the parents are going to go, well, why did it happen? But you can't really
Right.
go into that. It's more of like, I like what you're saying, and I want to be clear about those that are maybe tuning in, going, oh, this could be good. It's in honoring. Who is
Right.
this? Almost maybe
What
another
is this
part. Who is this
energy?
being? Like, I
Yes.
know
Yeah.
like some women feel very connected to their babies and any kind of loss, of course. And then they're feeling like they're not going to have that other part of the earth experience. But I don't
Right.
know. I just really love that. It just feels so loving like to be able
Yeah.
to look at that from that. So maybe you'll get people. I don't,
Right. I
but
think that's
yeah.
beautiful too, because it could be just even looking at the three, like the sun, the moon, the
Yes.
rising, just knowing were they an earth energy, were they a
Yes.
fire energy? And maybe that's a way you can connect with them too through the elements. Like maybe if it was an earth baby that passed away, hiking could help you connect with their spirit. Or if it was a fire baby, having a fire pit or having a special candle, you know what I mean? Maybe connection through the elements would be
Mm.
a beautiful thing.
I think ritual and ceremony, especially with law,
Yes.
it's human, like nature. We need that. And I don't know, I'm all excited. Like this could be such a beautiful experience for those that are really just really in a hard space, especially. And just like you said, not being able to have that life and that time and that moment, but being able to, yeah. So, okay, let me see. I'm like,
Yeah, that's so
um,
interesting.
because I'm thinking about, am I going to hire Tori to read my two children? My two, you know what
Yes.
I call my boys actually, oftentimes when people want to know, like I talk about my kids and I feel like I could be very poetic and I romance. So like I get caught up in energy all the time. And I
Mm.
always say that my older son is my fire and my little one is my moon
Oh, I
because
love
they're
that. That's
their person,
beautiful.
and I wonder if it's in their charts because their personalities are very much
Mm.
like that. Because
Yeah.
I have my fiery, I'm going to jump off the roof and not think and be impulsive and intuitive
Yes.
vibe, mouthy too, and I'm going to do what I
Hmm.
want.
Yes,
And then I
yes.
have my like sweet, oversensitive, very conscious, like soft. And even in his my younger one, even in his homeopathic remedy, when we got the remedies for the boys when they were younger, they get specific ones. My one was sulfur, which is like, yeah,
Hmm.
salt, maybe the fire. And then the other one was lycopodium, I think it's called. It's called green soft moss. And
Oh
I'm
my
like, of
gosh,
course,
that's so
like,
funny.
and he's Ray, and his name is Forrest, and I'm like, oh my
Oh,
God. But I think of
I love that.
my son Rain. I'm like, is Rain a fitting name for him? Maybe I should have named him Fireball.
Yeah, Aries.
Yeah. So I was like, what
Yeah.
is a fiery name? Because he
Right.
was punching and I felt like he was punching and moving in the womb, and in my meditations and my visitations with him. Before he was born, it was like he was pretty much spot on to who he was
That's
going to be.
amazing.
It's
I
wild.
love that. I love that.
Whereas my second was like such a quiet, he was very quiet. And I was like,
Mm.
what's something? Why is that? And then he was like, that was his personality. He was more inward, less
Crazy.
physical. Like my older one is very kinesthetic. That was his,
Hmm.
and all boys are very kinesthetic, but his was like through the roof.
Yeah,
And then
different
like
energy.
I had three black lips at one time because when he was a toddler, he just, they just catapult into you.
Oh yeah, no
Oh my
concept of
gosh.
space.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then I told my husband, why are you not beat up? And he goes, because I'm faster. And I'm like, thanks. I
That's
was like, yeah, it
amazing.
was a good point. He was like, I'm just
Yeah.
quick to move out of the way. I literally at one time had a split lip with a black bruise in it, and I was just like, what? This kid is like wild, like
Oh my gosh.
nonstop physical action, and it just cracks me up now. And he's more tamer because he's getting older. But he's
Hmm.
definitely that kid that's going to be up there on the snowboard. He's going to be up there on the skateboard. He's going to go on the ramp. Like he's that kid. Whereas
I
my
love
other
that.
one is like, I'll do it, but let me think about it before. Let me.
Yeah, he's like, let me
Hmm.
watch you do it, okay?
Yes. And
Yeah.
then maybe I'll do it. Maybe I'm not sure. And I always tell my boys, just trust your body. If you're
I
not,
love
if you
that.
don't feel safe, because we know that fear is a real thing. And it's like, there is a little overthinking. I could see that with my soft moon baby boy. But
Mm,
because it's like just go, just experience. Whereas the other one's just
yes.
like maybe doesn't think enough, like, oh,
Yeah,
but
you're like,
it's
can we come in the middle?
yeah, like let's see. So I was like my fire, my moon, but it fascinates me. Um,
Yes, I'd be so curious to look at their
I
charts. We'll have to
know.
do that.
But so yeah, so what do you want to do with you want to share? I know you were talking about like yeah, my chart. I'm like, uh-oh, everybody's gonna hear about me. Like,
No,
what's
I
up?
did we'll do a high level. I went through, so I
Okay.
did like how I would like a higher level version of my readings, like sun, moon, Mercury, and rising. So I'll walk you through it and I'm
So this
curious
is
to
what it's
see
like.
what
I
you
want to
think.
just introduce people like so this is what
Yeah.
a session would look like with you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I do them on Zoom. I do them all virtually. So it's very similar to what we're doing now. And I'll teach you a little bit. So I know you're a dabbler in astrology, but you're not fully in it. So like I said before, your sun, I have everything written. So if I'm looking down, that's why. Your sun is in Taurus. And I'm sure you know that there's houses and they all have different meanings and all of that stuff. So I typically don't go into the meanings of the houses. I'm like, I want you to actually walk away, know what I was talking about. But when I'm telling you about yourself via your sun sign, it's because of not only that it's in Taurus, but where it is on the wheel with all of the houses. So your Taurus is in the 11th house, which is funny. My daughter has the exact same placement. She's a Taurus sun in the 11th house. And I just love seeing it as like a grown up version. So I'm like, oh, this
Hmm.
makes sense. So to you, I wrote, life is art to you, and creativity is ever present. You're fascinated by both simple and complex topics with your Earth Sun in the 11th house. So the 11th house has almost like an Aquarian. I know we've been talking about Aquarian vibes too. It has this Aquarian energy to it. So it's community, it's sharing, and it's also forward thinking. It's you're the one talking about something probably 30 years before it becomes a real thing. And I feel like that's so true for you.
Oh my God, thanks for saying that. We literally have been just talking about this with my husband yesterday. I said to him, "You don't understand." I said, I know things that I can't even speak about because I feel like
Yes.
it is literally 30 years into the future. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do with this information? Right? That's
Oh
what
my
I,
gosh. Yes,
because
tell me.
people don't have capacity for it. So I can't even, it's a
Right.
frequency, really.
Yes,
So then I've
yes.
discovered, I love that you said that because I was like, I'm literally just talking about this last night. And even earlier, I'm like, I'm less frustrated by it because I know that we all have a frequency that has a purpose.
Yes,
So
totally.
some just come with pinging the energy, so then it moves, right?
Right.
But
Like you're holding the space for the energy so somebody else can hold it and
there you
it'll feel
go.
lighter, you know? That's how I
And
feel.
then we'll just all keep, and I am really big into community, like more than ever.
Yes,
It's an
yes. And
important
that's the
mission.
11th house is like your part of your mission because your sun is your core, your identity, just like who you come back to.
Mm.
And community and connection is so important with that 11th house sun. So yeah, I said you take because it's similar to me in my intro, whereas you take these big ideas. You're more Aquarian though. You're more like out there than me, I feel like. You take these big forward-thinking ideas and you bring them back to the earth, the body. The Taurus is the body, it's the earth, it's stability. So you are, even though it feels like maybe you're 30 years ahead, I do think you're gonna find ways and you have been finding ways to trickle it in a way that people can dabble with it. You know what I mean? Yeah, you're like, I'm trying, I'm
I
trying.
am. I'm like, that's good. No, I think you're onto something for sure. There's bigger things I can't reveal yet, let's say.
Yes,
Yeah.
totally. I love that. So to wrap up the sun, I wrote, you're a community builder who is ahead of her time. I feel like that's exactly
I
you.
love it. There you
Yes.
go.
Right? So then onto your moon sign. So your moon, like I said, for women is so important, especially for kids. I can't stress that enough. I'm like, even sometimes more important than knowing your kid's sun sign is like you got to find out their moon sign so you can know because kids don't have the filters we have. They're just all from emotions. They're all from the heart.
Mm.
And that's what our moon sign represents. So your moon sign is Sagittarius and it's in the sixth house, which is like wellness routines. And Sagittarius is this amazing fiery sign that is a
Mm.
forever learner. So I
Mm.
know you've been doing this medical medium stuff too. And I'm like, this is just so fitting because you're just always trying to learn more and figure out, like, it's like biohacking health in a way. But
Mm.
with a lot of your placements, you're biohacking health, but like from mysticism. You know what I mean?
Mm. I love, yeah, that's right. It's Sagittarius. I forgot. And that
Yes.
would be
Yes.
fire. So
Yes.
what can
It's
I do with
fire.
that? Like, so does that mean I like fire or the fire, or I do like to be warm?
It's especially with your moon, I'm like,
Yeah.
it's really connected to passion. To me, I'm
Okay.
like,
Yes.
it's making sure that you are doing things that feel like they light you up and
Mm.
light you on fire because you don't feel with your Sag moon in the sixth house, I'm like, you don't feel like you're aligned unless you're like really freaking pumped about something and you're learning about it and you're diving into it and you're figuring it out. And also you're sharing it because with
Mm.
your sun in community, and with your Sagittarius moon, it's like part of your job and your mission is to make sure all of this stuff that you're percolating on gets out there into the world, which is, I
Wow,
mean,
this is
hello,
like
you have a
really me, by the
podcast.
way. This is really me. Like, I'm like,
Yes.
wow, that's really because it's so true. Like, I feel like even there's a fire under me. I can't waste time. And
Yes.
I even have a
Yes.
new idea come out, but it's just a month ago. I'm like,
Yes.
it's gotta come out.
Yes.
And like what you're saying about the medical intuitive part is I just have to share this one little piece. I just joined the National Organization for Medical Intuition, which is a big deal as a
That's so cool.
professional. So
Oh
this
my
there is no
gosh.
global like organization because there's not a lot of rules around it, but this
Right.
organization is researching scientists, medical doctors showing the collaborative efforts of it. And the thing that you just said, I was like, I went to their open house, which was funny because the word I heard in my when this woman said, she's like, we're on the fringe. And I was like, what's the fringe? And
Yes.
a
That's
part
so
of me,
good.
a part of me is like, because what you're saying, I'm going, a part of me is like, ah, fuck, I'm on the fringe. Why am I always on the fringe of something? Why can't it just like be the thing? And
No,
then
you're
I'm
on the
like,
fringe.
so I'm like, okay, like because the idea with the medical intuition, it's like the globally that it gets more and more integrated as just a normal complementary to healing. But I love, yeah, when you
Yes.
said that, it made me like the fire. I was like, oh yeah, okay, sorry, to be continued.
Yes, yes. So with your moon being in a fire sign, it's like you just feel things very intensely. And it's like what you're saying, like a new idea, a new idea, a new idea. And I feel like maybe you get attached to them, but then when you're ready to let go, you're like, whatever. I feel like fire signs in that way.
I do.
You can go and you
Yes.
can go and you can go, and then you know what you're attached to and you know what you can get rid of. You're able to move through it. Whereas someone with an earth moon might be like really, really, really attached and have a hard time letting go.
Mm. I just burn it away.
Right. You're like, all right, throw that in the
I
fire,
do. You
literally.
that's literally sounds like my assistant will agree with you. I go from like, let's do this or that. And the great thing is she knows me well enough to know that that's okay.
Yes, exactly. She's like, this is just her
Yeah,
process.
exactly. I love that. I'm like, okay, let's go. We're doing this. And I do feel like I do want to be the leader and authority in what it is that I bring forward. And it feels
Yes,
really passionate to me, for sure.
yes. I love that. Yes,
Yeah.
that's very aligned. Let me see if I missed anything that I wrote down. Yeah, I said constant learning, expansion, health, wellness, teaching, all of these things are so close to your heart, and you're fulfilled by learning something new and then sharing it with others, which is just exactly what you're doing.
And I love being a teacher. I was just saying that I did a taught today for an energy lecture for a group and I was like, "Oh, I really love that." Like
Yes,
it continues to make me happy. And it feels
totally.
like I have a like I'm just doing something more purposeful and it just feels more infectious when we're in the spaces of community
Yes.
together and it's just a lovely lovely reminder and
Yeah.
that I know we all have our own process
Mhm.
uh and I've accepted mine, but sometimes I'm like, am I jumping all over the place? But I think I need to do that. Like I need to burn through
Yes.
things. And then I do like when I do discover new things about my own internalness, I bring it to people. even
Mm-hmm.
that. Like I don't do a lot of outside research. I do like internal
Right.
research.
Yeah.
Like, someone's like, "You're like a channel." I'm like, "Sure, I'm like a channel." I'm like, "Where's it coming from?"
Yeah, you're
I
like,
want to bring
something's giving me an answer,
someone's,
but
and I like to bring that. Yeah, I like to bring that forward and see how we can pull it apart and tease it and grow and learn from it.
totally. I love that. Okay, so moving on to Mercury. So this is like I said, it's the mind and how you filter the world and how you communicate with others. This is another one I love knowing about kids because it can help you connect to your kids. So your Mercury's in Taurus as well. So you have your Sun and your Mercury in Taurus, which is you have a lot of these Tauran, you have a lot of this Venus vibes about you, which is what makes me feel like the child of the earth and the flower
Mm.
meditation, like you were saying. That makes so much sense. But with it in the 12th house is the unseen, and it's a
Mm.
lot of like diving into this mysticism and all of this unseen makes so much sense. A medical intuitive, you are literally into it of the unseen. So it makes a lot of sense. And again, you're bringing it back to the earth, which is the Taurus element.
Mm.
So I said more nods to you bringing understanding to metaphysical topics. You want to make sense of things others haven't even thought about. There's a lot in your chart that says,
Do.
I'm of this earth, I swear, but I can connect into places other people can't. You know what I mean?
I do want to bring to make sense of it for people. And I have a new Instagram at Earth Medical Intuitive.
Yes, I think I'm following
Is that
you. Yes,
hilarious? Like I'm like,
so
okay,
good.
yeah, there we go.
Yeah, that makes sense.
No, it all actually makes sense, especially aligning with my mission.
Mhm.
I know I say mission and there's a career aspect to it, but if the world didn't want money, I would still be doing this.
Totally.
You know what I'm
Yes,
saying? But this
yes,
world requires that. So it's like I'm going to do that in that way because I do feel like my mission is to bring healing wellness into people's consciousness so they can expand and find their own wellness, right?
yes,
So
exactly.
it does excite me and it does I think there's a lot of accuracy in this. Like I'm almost like, "Oh, can I talk about that?" Like that's my little secret she's revealing.
I'm sorry, edit it out.
No, it's there. It's there now. I'm not gonna, but
Yeah.
because I think some things, I have my own vulnerabilities. Like what wants to be shared? Do I? Because there's things I've been like really feeling and connecting with for quite some time, but I shouldn't have to hide.
No, no.
Yeah.
And yes, speaking of that, this is perfect timing and a perfect transition to your rising
Yeah.
sign because your rising sign is Gemini. So
Oh,
your highest energy, like you when you're feeling your best and you're at your like your most aligned, is this Gemini feeling. And Gemini is an air sign and it's the intellect, it's the sharer, it's the communicator. Like my husband's a Gemini and like he's the life of the party in the room because he's witty, he's this, he's that. So that's you when you're feeling like, ooh, I'm a little elevated. And it makes so much sense with what you're doing. And I'm so curious about like all these things you're like that are percolating because your best self is connection through your voice and sharing. Like
which is
Gemini's all
yeah.
about the voice.
Which I was just having this conversation earlier in an energetic group about lineage, and I've had throat issues when I was a
Mm,
teenager, really like I had chronic strep throat,
me
and
too.
I
We
had
have throat issues
real I
together.
had I literally have pock marks now in my tonsils, and it was just like forever until I'd say more than 10 years ago I was able to like really, but it is a weak space, it can go there but it doesn't stay long
Mm,
now. But also there's a lineage, and it's interesting we were
yeah.
talking about that, and I was always the quiet shy child that never wanted to talk, and now I'm making up for it, I say, with the Spirit Baby
Yes.
Radio.
I love
Also
that.
I want to share something. My husband's a Gemini, and
Oh
he
yeah.
is the clown, the top the he's very comedic. He's like he wants to go into a crowded room and everybody's hanging out with them, and I'm like, I don't want to do that. I'm like,
Yes.
I'm gonna hide in the
We're both
corner.
Taurus Gemini
Yeah,
twins,
isn't
and
that
I'm
wild?
the same exact way. Like I was the quiet kid, and now in my 30s and like going into my 40s, it's like this is when I'm finding truly my voice. And we're making up for lost time. We were too quiet.
Exactly. Yeah. And all those infections, it's just like the block, the stifling.
Yes.
But I love that.
Yes.
The Gemini, I remember someone said that. And I think it's interesting because me and my husband have been together for 31 years.
Oh my gosh.
He's
That's
my
crazy.
Gemini, and I'm sure he has different risings and things, but
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Yes, and I love that. That's like another thing I love looking at because a lot of people will be like, "Oh, am I compatible?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know. There's so many different ways to look at it. Like the fact that your rising sign is the same as his sun, it gives you guys that cohesive energy, but just you show up in different ways. And it might be
Yeah.
helpful for you. I have found that in my own life, so I'm a fire rising and I'm a Leo rising, and it's the only fire in my entire chart. So, like I said, I've always been quiet, shy, nervous, like I haven't taken
Oh,
up a lot of
right.
space.
Yeah.
But the Leo is the girl who's like, I don't give a shit. I'm coming out and taking up
Wow.
space. I'm wearing the coolest outfit. I'm doing all the things. And that's me, like at my best self. But I've had a hard time coming to that. And I'm wondering your husband's influence with this Gemini energy bringing you more towards your
Mm.
confidence with your voice. Like we influence each other in that way.
Yeah. Well, my question too is, so what I say, so I'm a Taurus and I would say I'm rising Sagittarius. No, I'm,
Your Taurus sun, your rising is Gemini, and your
so I
moon
would
is
say
Sagittarius.
rising is Gem. Okay, I'm gonna have to remember that. My moon is Sagittarius, you said, right? So, um, let me see. Uh-oh. I think we froze a little bit. Do you hear me?
You hear me? Can you
Oh,
see
I
me?
hear you. I hear you
Oh,
now.
there we
Yeah,
go.
it
Now
just,
you're back.
it's
Now you're
okay. It
back.
froze for a minute. What I was
Okay.
saying was that, okay, so I'm just trying to get the order in my mind.
Hmm.
So, Sagittarius makes me curious because it's December, Sagittarius. And my mom, by the way, is or was, because she's not here in her earth body. So, but she's still a Sagittarius.
Yeah.
How would you say that? Do you know what I mean? So, my mom, is there a correlation between that, like our parents and our own, or not really?
You
What
know,
would you, yeah.
there are sometimes coincidences and overlapping of
Okay.
the charts. Like I do find that they're like, I'm a Taurus and both my kids are Tauruses. And my son is a Libra moon and my husband's a Libra moon. Like I do find that there are
Yeah.
patterns, definitely patterns of energy that come up.
Okay, yeah, because I'm like, and I'm sure others are tuning in going, yeah, how does that work? So
Yeah,
that's,
I
yeah,
that's a mystery. That's a mystery of the world, like how we
yeah.
come in and how it works, but I do definitely notice patterns in energy.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wow, that's great. Thank you.
it's really cool. Yeah. And then, yeah, so you're rising. Let me see if I said anything else. Yeah, your best self is in connection through your voice, sharing information, teaching others. And yes, so your rising is directly next to Venus, which again is like similar Taurus energy, but Venus is love, Venus is beauty. So your best self, I wrote sharing information, teaching others all through deep love. Your highest self emanates love when you're in alignment with sharing and connection. So it's a lot of heart space, I feel like.
I'm not going to disagree.
Yeah, you're like, correct.
I'm
That's
like,
me.
yes, because I feel like that's the mission is like always bringing in love and our love of connection and experience. And so again, I'm
Yes.
not going to do.
Yes, totally.
So when people come to you, are they like, like this is like an overall, it's not like this year. Like, is that something different when people go, what is this year
That's
going to
different.
bring? Okay, that's a
Yeah,
whole,
so that would be looking at like current transits. And like I can look at current
oh,
transits and see
yeah.
what's going on, especially if somebody's like really dealing with something. But I really like to just give you like this is the core, and especially like how I said at the beginning, it's bringing mothers back to their identity because I feel like
Okay.
so much of who we are is lost. And I love the like look of just like, oh, like kind of what you're saying, like, yeah, that is me. Like I'll take that
Yeah.
compliment. Like I feel like
Yes, I
mothers,
get it.
like mothers deserve that. And I always do the sun, moon, rising, Mercury, and then I always include a unique gift. So I look at your total chart and I'm like, your gift is this. And seeing mothers like,
I
oh,
love that.
yeah, I
Yes.
remember that about myself. I know
Oh,
that about myself. Or maybe it's the first time they're feeling that about themselves. And then I give that to them for their kids too. So going and getting like a solar return chart reading and like looking at the themes ahead. I don't typically do that. I'm like,
okay.
there's so many people that do that. I'm going to leave that to them. I like doing like the
Yeah.
connection piece.
No, I love that because I want it to be clear because someone's like, hey, what is
Yes.
my, because I feel like, astrology is the umbrella and there's a lot of different things, but I
Right.
love how you're like, this is the craft, this is what I bring. And there is something when we get to be in our own self-love of like, oh,
Yes.
like that's like a reminder of especially mothers. Like there's so much giving with mothers, right? And it's like,
Yes.
how do we give to ourselves is always a balance. Even, my children are older, but I still feel like my self-care doesn't dwindle, just because I'm
Right,
not changing
exactly.
diapers or,
Yes.
nursing. It's
Yeah,
like it's a different care, but children, they want a lot from us.
exactly. At all
At all
times. Yeah.
times, like no matter
Yeah.
what. And so I love that that you offer that. And that makes sense. Like I get where you're going and how
Hmm.
you get to support children and families, like you said, in digestible ways that then,
Yes.
it feels like we get to walk away empowered by what you're sharing.
Yes, and some of that I haven't even spoke about, some of my favorite parts, like memories forever, are doing readings and when the partner joins, because a lot of times it's
Yes.
just
Yeah.
moms and they're like, tell me everything, tell me about my husband or my partner, whatever. But sometimes they'll get their partner to come on. It's like the partner's like, okay, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
But they always, I've almost like 100% success rate of making a dad cry, because when is the
Mm,
last time, like mothers, but also fathers. When is the last time somebody has
yeah.
sat him down and said, this is the beauty within you. These are your gifts. This is what you bring
Oh,
to your family. And it's just such a beautiful thing, because that's something I wasn't expecting. When I first started, I was
wow.
like, people are so curious about their kids. But you know what? We lose so much of our connection in motherhood and in parenthood to each other sometimes, especially in early motherhood and early parenting, that it's been like, oh, I forgot that about you. Like, that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like validating each other. It's been so cool to see like the relationship between parents too.
And I think it is very empowering because it's kind of like taking a pause to look at your partner, especially male partner. It's like it's
Hmm.
so different. And it's like, oh, like how are you being the good provider you are? Because this is what men want. And
Yes,
and then how are
exactly.
we being grateful for that and that part of you? So I could see that being very emotional and it's
Yes.
not you're not going too deep where they're running away. Right?
Exactly. I'm like,
Yeah.
I want them to feel comfortable that they're
Yeah.
like, I know what the
Yes.
hell you're talking about. I feel
Yes.
seen. I feel heard. I see my wife. I see her in a different way now, or
Yeah.
maybe even just honoring each other's passions before.
Mm.
Like sometimes it's like, oh, you're super creative. And they're like, yeah, but I kind of lost that. And they like see like new
Mm,
things about each other too, which is beautiful.
I love that. Well, this has been great. Thank you so much for sharing that. Can you tell us how people can find your website or book with you or whatever your offerings are, what's happening?
Yeah, of course. So my last name is hard to spell, but it's easy to say in my opinion. My name is Tory Sjovall. So my website is just www.torysjovall.com. It's Torysjovall. And then my Instagram and TikTok are the same thing. I'm most active on Instagram. So if you want to find me there and see what I'm doing over there, that's probably the best place to start. And then, yeah, so I'm a full-time mom, part-time witch, I like to say. So my offerings are all up on my website, but what's open and what's not depends on what's going on in my life. But I offer tarot readings too, and I offer individual astrology readings if you're just like trying to get back to yourself, or I offer couple readings. And then, of course, my favorite is full family readings. So you can find that all on my website.
Well, thank you. And I want to just any final love words you can just share with the
I would say I think my favorite thing to tell people is just don't be intimidated by the newness, or if you're curious about spirituality or astrology or anything like that, like there's ways to make it easy and there's ways to integrate it into your life. So just start small. Like I started by pulling like an oracle card a day. You know, you can find your way in and make it work for you in your life. And that's what I like to do with my astrology readings too.
amazing. Thank you, Tori, for being
Thank
here.
you. Thank you so much. I loved it.
And I want to thank you all for joining episode 200, Raising a Family Within the Age of Aquarius, Parenting with Your Astrology. And thank you for celebrating. This is a kind of a celebration. This is fun, and I appreciate getting that deeper connection. And thank you all for joining. Bye bye. Thank you for joining Spirit Baby Radio with your host, me, Kelly Meehan. Please join my community and stay in touch with monthly energy rants, Spirit Baby poetry, and get access to Spirit Baby 101 with tips and practices at my newsletter at newearthchildren.com. And join me on Instagram with lives at Spirit Baby Medium and join the mighty networks, the Spirit Baby Collective membership, and Motherhood to Mediumship. Remember, you are the heart that holds communication, and it is your time to connect. Come share in the great shift of your mind and the true spirit of your heart with Spirit Baby Communication.